So you're a New York attorney, but a lot of your advice is, applies, wherever you are in terms of, preparing and understanding the law.
Sure.
And so, and I'm sure a lot of people on listening to us know quite a bit about things like advance directives. But let's just do a quick review about that, just so because there are sometimes changes and just, let's
Sure.
look at the major ones again.
Well, and again, I imagine it's the same in, most states. I mean, the real basics that really any adult should have in place, and this comes up oftentimes when the kids are leaving for college. You want to make sure that someone's in charge of making financial decisions. You want to make sure someone's in charge of health decisions. And really, it's really three things. A health proxy, a sister document that kind of works with the health proxy. We call it in New York a living will. Like I know in Florida they call it a health proxy, healthcare surrogate. And then we have the power of attorney. I mean, the health proxy, I always say in a nutshell, is a document that creates a principal-agent relationship. The principal, mom, dad, or kid going to school appoints an agent to speak on their behalf regarding health and medical decisions, only if for some reason that person couldn't speak for themselves. They're not giving up any rights to make their own decisions. They're saying, look, if I'm unconscious, if maybe perhaps something happened, I was given, pain relieving drugs in the hospital and I'm not thinking clearly, then speak to this other person. And I want to say, this is one document that's a little unusual in the documents we prepare, in that you cannot name several agents to act simultaneously. You can't have co-agents, and parents always come in and they say, I'm going to name my spouse and then the kids. And I go, in what order? Oh, they'll be equal. I go, you can't do that. In New York, you can't do that. On Long Island, you can't do that. The idea being that if you're on the operating table and the doctor's looking to you and, one child says, Mom would want this, and the other one goes, no, Mom would want that. And the doctor's going, well, what am I doing here? There's a standoff. So you could have, 17 different people, but it's a pecking order of primary, first alternate, second alternate, if the previous ones are unavailable. The document that kind of is a sister document to the health proxy, the living will, it's really a statement of your wishes and instructions for your healthcare agent. And I always say to parents that come in, this is a good idea to have, especially if you're going to name your children as alternates. And in New York, any, adult can be a healthcare agent, adult being defined as, 18 and above. The living will, the traditional one, the one that I have, basically says, look, to my agent, to my healthcare provider, to the attending physician, if I'm ever diagnosed to be in a permanent vegetative state, keep me out of pain, but please don't use heroic measures to keep me alive if that really means that I'm going to be on machines, tubes. I'm going to have no awareness. There's no brainwave activity. I don't want to be kept, quote unquote, alive under these circumstances. Don't do me any favors. I certainly wouldn't want my family to have to visit me in an institution for a prolonged stretch of time, as, modern science somehow keeps me alive. It always reminds me of that Rodney Dangerfield joke that, when he was going to die, he was going to donate his body to science fiction or something like that. So then, of course, the third document, which a lot of times is probably, such an important document to have in place, and it sometimes is the key to really sophisticated and planning that can really save a family's finances, the power of attorney. And the power of attorney, again, the principal appoints an agent or agents. You can have co-agents. although if you do name co-agents, oftentimes we'll recommend that the agents be permitted to act separately, because you have two people, like mom the widow names her two kids, and I always say, just try to imagine to have both your children go to the bank during banking hours during a week at the same time. I mean, as a practical matter, could they do it? I guess it probably wouldn't be easy. Let either one be able to stand in your shoes and help you pay bills, sign the tax return, take out a loan. The reason this document is so important is because it could save the day in the event of a health crisis wherein someone may land in a nursing home, and we might have to try to arrange their affairs to minimize the financial damage. If you don't have someone named as your healthcare agent or your power of attorney, the reality is that you've kind of painted the family into a very small corner, which requires, at least in New York State, it's called a guardianship proceeding, whereby we actually have to sue someone who's alleged to be incapacitated in New York, and it's in the Supreme Court, which is the lowest level of court. In other states, I'm sure the Supreme Court is the highest. In New York, it's the lowest. The Court of Appeals is the highest. And then there's an appellate division in between. Anyhow, the idea being that you have to sue an alleged incapacitated person, bring them into court in front of a judge who's being asked to take away a United States citizen's rights to make their own health and financial decisions. Is it appropriate to take it away? And then is it appropriate to give it to the person who's petitioning? And that's a pretty serious thing,
right?
As you can imagine. So you can really do your family a big favor by naming people that you trust, that are good decision makers for you, and eliminate the need for any kind of excitement and lawsuits, which don't. It's never fast. It's never quick, even when it's obvious. I've had cases where people are clearly incapacitated, just literally physical damage, and the judge has to go through the whole procedure, and it's an expensive, lengthy affair, and we're not certain of the outcome and who you will have managing your affairs, because sometimes that could lead to excitement as to who may petition to want to become in charge. And that's just the basics.
That's just the basics, right?